Hi, good evening. This is Ahmed Al-Tareef, and I would like to delight to welcome you to our virtual Majlis. Thank you. This evening, we'll be discussing women in Bahrain boardrooms. Diversity is not only important ethically, but has been showing to improving decision-making. We'll be assessing how Bahrain is faring in relation to executive appointment compared to other countries. We'll be looking at initiative to encourage female leaders. I am very pleased to welcome Ms Eman Deabil and our host, Ms Zoë Buckingham. Thank you for your attending. And now I would like hand over to Ms Buckingham, who will share what promises to be highly informative discussion. Ms Zoë, please, the mic is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Al-Tareef. It's a pleasure to host this Majlis for you, a great honor, and it will be a fascinating evening, I'm sure. So I would like to introduce our speakers this evening, although of course you are all speakers and I hope to hear from you all later. So Ms Eman Deabil has some very interesting things to say, and I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a minute. And just quickly to tell you who I am, I'm an international marketing consultant. I've had the privilege to host some of the other Al-Tareef Majlis, mainly on ESG topics, but today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. So with no further ado, I'm going to pass over to Ms Deabil, who has a really interesting presentation to make on women in the boardrooms in Bahrain and the comparison that we can make with other parts of the GCC and in fact the world. Over to you, Eman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms Zoë. Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed, for having me tonight. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time to attend this meeting today. Well, my name is Eman Deabil, as you know. I am a management consultant, a doctorate student, and a published author. I published 3 books so far, and there's one in the pipeline. And I do publish already articles on different topics, management topics, of course. I am proud to be a Bahraini, the first Bahraini who got the PFMP, which is the Portfolio Project Management, and the SIP. So I am the first Bahraini woman who took those certifications. Stay tuned for more. I have 15 years of total diversified experience. I changed jobs 6 times. I met different people. I worked with 15 different bosses, different faces, different environments, different industries, and different organizations, of course. And that helps me a lot in polishing my rough edges, to be very honest with you. I've got 3 masters so far, one in project management, the second in applied business research, and the third in strategic management and leadership. I have more than 10 professional certifications in different disciplines, IT governance 2 in digital transformation, 2 in PMOs, 2 in project management. It seems like 2 is a common number in my certifications, and 2 in strategy. Yes, this is me in a nutshell. I am a very proud Bahraini. I was born in Bahrain. I studied in Bahrain. I studied in the local University of Bahrain, and here we go. So yes. In our agenda today, we will cover a snapshot on the previous relevant publications that I published already in Bahrain this month. And then I will cover the women representation in Bahrain's boardrooms in both the listed and the sample 117 organizations that I have covered. And then I will compare Bahrain versus others based on the report that I reviewed from Deloitte. And then we will highlight the key initiatives to enable women, the working woman, of course, to make it very concise. And then we will highlight the value of board gender diversity. So a little background about what happened or the story behind this whole Majlis or this whole session. The story started even before February 2021. February 2021 was for the first article to be published in Bahrain this month. But before that, there was a lot of work that happened in the background. So basically, the idea started from the need that we need to study the climate, whether it's really nurturing the women at board level or it's not. So I collected a lot of data from 117 organizations, all the names of the board members, all the data sets from those websites, from the 117 websites. And then I showed it to my mentor, Mr. Bucheery, who advised me to publish it as an article in Bahrain this month. And he facilitated that communication between me and Bahrain this month, thanks to Belgrade for his mentorship in this. So basically, we published the first article in February 2021. It was well received by Bahrain this month. They published it and they announced for it, and they really publicized it. And then in March 2021, we published another article that was to study the attributes and the profiles of those women who made it to the boardroom. And I remember that I sat with Mr. Talal Zain Abu Fahad during that time. He was my CEO at that time, and we sat together and we tried to study the profiles of those women and how they made it to the boardroom. But thanks to Abu Fahad, of course, for this. And we featured Abu Fahad in that particular post. He gave me a very nice quote during that time about diversity and inclusion in the boardroom. In February 2022, we published another article. So it was about women in leadership. And here we covered the women in the executive management roles, not in the boardroom as such, but in the executive management roles. But we did not reach to any concrete conclusions on this, simply because the organization structures and organizations are very different and it really varied. So we did not really reach to a specific conclusion. However, there are some interesting facts that we have highlighted in this article, which were basically women can make it to HR better than men in comparison to men. They can make it also to project management and strategy and audit and compliance better than their opponents of men. So these are the key, let's say, key observations in that particular article. In September 2022, we published another article that was to cover the listed companies only, the 42 listed companies under Bahrain Bourse. And we reached to some nice conclusions here. And we have featured also Mr. Saleh Hussein, who's a guru in corporate governance. Yes. And then in December 2022, we have published the last article, which is to cover the initiatives that were undertaken by Bahrain and all the directives that were published during that time. And we showed the progress and the growth of women representation, even in the Council of Representatives, the parliament. Here we featured Diana Wild, who's covering and who's the founder of the Aurora 50. Aurora 50 is responsible for Pathway 20 and Gateway, for enabling women to reach to the board level. I have actually attended a couple of sessions that were conducted by Aurora 50, and I found them really useful and beneficial. They have brought several speakers from different parts of the world. They are existing board members, and they are really knowledgeable, and they have shared their knowledge across with everyone. Yeah, so this is the story behind this. I hope
Sorry, Eman, I was ahead of you there.
Okay, so when it comes to the first article, we covered the 117 organizations, the sample organizations, how we read this table. Basically, we covered the sector and then the number of organizations under this sector, and then the total number of directors under all the organizations under that sector. And then we divided both women and men, okay? And we reached to the representation of women later. So we just divided the total number of women over the total number of directors, and then we found the representation of women. A couple of observations to make here. There is a zero representation for women in both the aviation sector and the energy and resources sector, which is shocking in a way. And then another observation is 9.8 was the total representation of women in the 117 organizations, which means that around 90.2 is the total representation of men, which is huge. Some other key observations were more than half, or 50% of the boards, or let's just translate it to numbers just for ease. 66 boards out of the 117 sampled organizations have no women representation whatsoever, 0%. They don't have any women sitting in the boardroom. 37 out of the 54 organizations in the financial services sector, which is the most mature sector here in Bahrain, have no women representation, 37 organizations. Here we're speaking about banks and insurance companies, financial institutions in general. Only 2 out of the 117 organizations have more than 50% of women holding positions in the boardroom, only 2. And those 2, by the way, are family-owned companies, and those directors are part of the family that owned that company. So this is the thing. As per the Deloitte report, and by the way, Deloitte is publishing a report every couple of years. So basically, we covered the 2021 and the 2018 report. In the 2021, they have indicated that at a global level, women hold just 19.7% of the board seats, which indicates that we are behind the rate by around 8.7% in 2021. Another observation that we made in 2022, the same sampled organizations we've studied again in 2022, and we've reached to a percentage of 11%, which shows that there is a progress somehow. But that progress due to 2 main reasons behind that progress. Those are either the board members have decreased, okay, which means that the women representation would increase as a result, or they have increased the women representation in that boardroom. So basically, they invited more women to join their boardrooms. Yes. So this is for only visual people to see the difference between the blue and the pink color. The pink color is for women and the blue color is for men. And here we go. Yes.
Great.
We can move. Yeah. So basically, women representation in the 42 listed companies, yes, in 2022, we've covered that, and we've reached to a conclusion, just to let you know how to read this table again. So we've covered the industry. There are 9 different industries or categories under Bahrain Bourse. So in each category, there are a list of organizations that come underneath that category. So when it comes to, for instance, the closed companies, there are a total of 10 companies that are closed companies. The men in those 10 companies are 3, the male are 7, for instance, and the representation of women as a percentage is 30%. So the way we are dividing, the way we are calculating this is by dividing 3 over 10, and it's a percentage, 30% out of 10. So the total number of companies under this category is only 1. Oh, sorry. Okay. The total number of directors, it's not the total number of companies under this category. The total number of companies under this category is coming in the 4th column. So the percentage of companies with 0 representation is actually, let's just highlight the observation, Zoe, if we can.
Oh, yes, sure. Sorry.
Yes.
There.
With 0 representation, it's actually the industrials and the non-Bahraini companies. They have 0 representation of women. And then another observation that we can make here is that 13 companies from the financial industry are having 0 representation for women. Okay. And a total of 26 organizations have 0 representation for women. Imagine 26 out of 42, which is more than the 50% that we're talking about. The total directorships here are 371, and the male directorships is 349, which represents 94.1%, which means that we're left only with 5.9 for female directorships. The male chairs are 100%. The female chairs are 0%. There is no board that is being chaired by a woman in the 42 listed companies, in other words. Yes, another observation here we can make is that the overboarding, we've realized that there is an overboarding here. Yeah, if we can just show the, yes, the overboarding. To come up with this small, tiny table, it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of efforts and a lot of work, just simply because you have to collect all the names and you have to compare the names and you have to make sure that the names are accurate and the names are repeating, the same names are repeating. So basically, it took me a lot of time to come up with this small, tiny table. The directors and still, there is a margin for error, by the way, because the names are not spelled the same way all the time. Muhammad can be spelled different ways. We know that in our culture. So directors in one board are 2/7 males and 22 females. They are only sitting in one board. Okay, while those who are sitting in two boards, for instance, they are all males. 31 who are sitting in two boards, they are all males. The directors who are sitting in three boards, they are 6 males only. Okay, so even overboarding is not applicable to women. In other words, it's only applicable to men in the listed companies. Although overboarding is not really a recommended practice because under the Code of Corporate Governance 2018, they said that it's a maximum of 5 boards. While even in the Code of Corporate Governance that was issued back in 2010, they said it's only up to 3 boards. So it's not really a recommended practice due to so many reasons. No one can focus on 6 different boards at the same time under listed companies, specifically because they are really highly regulated. Yep, so we can move further. Again, this is for the people who are highly visual. So basically you can compare here the blue with the pink color. Yes. Deloitte has published a very nice report. As I said before, Deloitte is publishing a report every couple of years, and they are really, measuring the success and the progress of women making it to the boardroom. So basically, they call their report "Progress at a Snail Pace." You know the snail, right? You know the snail, the halazon. Even the metaphor they have used is very professional and very nice. The progress at a snail pace. So basically they covered the women representation in different countries, in different regions as well. So basically when it comes to the top 10, yes, Al-Halazona, exactly. Thank you so much. So when it comes to the top 10, France made 43.2, Norway 42.4, and you will realize here that the geographies or the countries are mostly from the European countries or Scandinavian countries. Why? Simply because of 2 reasons, 2 main reasons. Either they are self-regulated, they have that self-regulation, so they are standing at 40% for women, for instance, or for both genders at 40%, and not to be increased above 40%. Or they are having a quota. So basically either quota or self-regulation that really put them under that boundary to have this percentage, which is a huge 43.2 comparison to us. Yes. When it comes to the Arab countries and GCC, Egypt is having 10% women representation in their listed companies, Morocco having 8.7, and United Arab Emirates is having 5.3, Kuwait is 4, Saudi Arabia is 1.7, Qatar is 1.2. And we are here in the middle, right in the middle, but before the United Arab Emirates. We're making good progress, by the way. 5.9 is better than 5.3 at the end of the day. And under United Arab Emirates, they have a quota right now. Actually, they are they have a mandate of having one representative, woman representative, in their boardrooms for the listed companies. Yes, there is a question. Any data from Oman? Not in the Deloitte report. I didn't see any data from Oman under Deloitte report, to be very frank. Yes. So yes, we're right here. We're right here above United Arab Emirates and below Morocco at 5.9. Yes. So what are the key Bahrain initiatives to enable women, the working woman? There are a lot of initiatives, by the way, but just to highlight a few, there's the Supreme Council for Women that was established back in 2001. So basically it's for women, and it's under the royal presidency of Her Royal Highness Sheikha Sabika, the wife of the king. There are a lot of initiatives underneath the Supreme Council for Women, such as the launching of National Gender Balance Model, for instance. There are a lot of prizes that are dedicated to women initiatives. There are a lot of research that were conducted under the Supreme Council of Women. There are a lot of study centers, etc. There are a lot of initiatives, honestly speaking. When you access that website, you will be shocked by the number of initiatives that they are currently undertaking. The second initiative, which is in August 2021, His Majesty the King has issued a new decree to close the gender pay gap. So basically, the discrimination in wages between the male and female who are working in the same job has already decreased now, and it should be prohibited, that variance between male and female. This is one of the projects that Mr. Talal Zain has worked on while I was with him actually in Trustray. Yes, to close the pay gender gap. The recent developments that were already undertaken in light of the royal directives of His Royal Highness the Prince and the Prime Minister. Basically, that was actually forwarded by some recent developments from both the CBB and from the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. So they have issued a decision to amend, for instance, a corporate governance code on the representation of women in the listed companies, for instance. And also the boards of the listed companies has to increase, as per the CBB now, they have to increase the representation of women. Those are recommendations still in the making, but yet there is a progress. It means that there is something in the progress that happened. Of course, another initiative is the disclosure of membership statistics classified by the gender for the company board of directors. That should be made available in the annual corporate governance report and in the annual report itself. And it should be also reported as part of the ESG report that will be issued, that on voluntary basis should be issued by each company going forward by Bahrain Bourse. So there are a set of guidelines under Bahrain Bourse and they have to comply with, but still it's voluntary. It could be mandatory later on at a later stage. Because it's mandatory for other countries, for instance. So those needs to be reported, the women representation at leadership roles and the women representation at board level roles. Yes? There's a question, I think.
Don't worry, we can ask if there's plenty of time for questions at the end. I know, Eman, this is very interesting. On our next part of the presentation is to ask the audience what they think. So let's just move on to that now. So the first one is about gender diversity. We'd just like to hear your view on gender diversity and corporate governance. Do women in the boardroom improve corporate governance?
I do have a question, if you don't mind.
Yes, Zoe, sorry, who's speaking?
I am Karim Bucheery.
Oh, hello, Karim. Yes, hello.
Yes. I have a question. Thank you very much, Eman, for this excellent presentation, which has enlightened us on many issues on this subject. I have one very basic and principal question. Why it is important for women to be in board meetings from a commercial point of view? You know, all the organization works for profit. Why it is so important for women to be in the boardroom? Is it only because we want to have gender equality, or are there commercial reasons for women to be on boards?
Can I answer that question now?
Yes, please, Eman. Please do.
Okay, yep. Perfect. Thank you so much for your question. It's very interesting, actually, and it's very, very challenging and tricky. Why? Simply because, yes, there are some commercial reasons according to some studies, because basically the woman represents more customer base in the environment. That's why they can bring up so many ideas and so many different perspectives to the table in the boardroom. One of the case studies that I have reviewed long time back, but I can't remember really the cosmetics company that was behind that case study. So the case study states that when they hired a woman in the boardroom, their profits have increased, simply because the woman knows better than men in cosmetics. So that she knows exactly what they have to introduce as products, because she's one of the customers at the end of the day. So she knows what features ladies are looking for. So yes, there are commercial reasons. There are studies behind this. I hope I answered your question.
You answered my question partly. Thank you very much. But
Yes.
the example you have mentioned is specific to a particular industry. Cosmetics, I would understand, maybe perfumes, these sorts of things may be good. But tell me one reason why a woman is more, say, important or more critical to be in a board of a bank, for instance.
She can think differently, simply put. Our setup is different than your setup as men. Our setup is basically is multitasking setup, so we can think of things in a holistic manner, helicopter view, looking at the context, overall context, how we can link things together. So it's a matter of thinking process, I believe.
And
so we can
that's what I've heard as well, Ms Deabil, that diversity in general, not just of having females in the boardroom, but diversity of people from different backgrounds, whether it's age, race, masculine versus feminine. It means that people have different perspectives, and different perspectives prevent groupthink. And that's certainly what I've read. But I know that some members of our audience have some very interesting things to say on this subject as well. So perhaps let's move on, and then we can broaden the discussion to talk about it in more detail, because it is an interesting area. And of course, boards need to include people who are going to add value. So it's a very important point. Now, I did launch a poll, but nobody's actually put anything in there. Can everybody see the poll?
Yes.
Yes. Nobody's typed agree or disagree.
No,
Zoe,
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Talal Al Zain. Can I just add a comment here, please?
Yes.
Of course, Eman, thank you very much. As always, you make us all proud. You've done a great job. But to my brother, of course, Karim, I do agree with you, Zoe. It's a matter of diversity. So to me, I always think about it this way. If we have a boardroom that has 10 Bahrainis, male, sitting in the boardroom, okay, and then it was decided to add one more, and they bring another Bahraini to the boardroom, another male Bahraini, in no time, this male Bahraini, his value add will diminish because he will be part of the group. If you bring in an expat or a woman into the boardroom, that in itself, it continues to change the way the board in general would think and would operate and would act. So I agree with you, Zoe. It's not women. It is diversity that is very important. And given that we have more than 50% of our population are females, it does not make sense that we lose the value of this half of our population of adding value to our organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your statement. And yes, I
may I
personally
say
agree
something?
with that
Hello, can
100%.
I add something here?
Shall we just quickly finish Eman's presentation, because I know this is a very hot topic and people really want to get involved discussing it. So let's just finish this. For some reason, I don't think people were getting the polls because we were launching them. I can try another one now that we've finished. Perhaps I need to stop sharing the presentation, and then it will be easier for you to see this. Let's just raise.
I can see the poll,
You
Zoe.
could see it.
Yeah, I think 17 out of 89% agreed and 11% disagreed.
Oh, brilliant, Ali.
I tried to share it, but I'm not sure why.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Ali, would you mind reading out the next one? Because Eman would like to know about decision-making value.
Okay, that was about women boardroom.
That was governance, corporate governance,
that was
yes.
89% agreed and 11% disagreed, but I can't see the rest.
Excellent. So this next one is about decision-making value.
Okay. Okay, I will launch it now. I think you need to launch it. It is there, but you need to launch it.
Do women in the boardroom improve decision-making?
Yeah. We can't click on it, Zoe.
Oh, you can't click on it. That's very
You need
odd.
to you need to press on launch.
Oh, I have. It's very odd. Let me just check everything's okay with it. Yes, it should all work. I'll just see if I can do it again. No, it doesn't seem to be working. Never mind.
Zoe,
Okay.
I can't see it on my screen as well. Your whole presentation has gone off.
Yes, it'll be coming back up. Don't worry. I just thought it would maybe the polls would work better without the presentation there as well, but doesn't seem to be doing the trick. Never mind. Okay, I'll reshare our presentation and we'll carry on. Okay. Okay, so the value of gender diversity. Would you like to talk about that one, Eman?
Yes, sure. So why we're speaking about it, but why we believe that diversity should be there at board level? Simply because women, and simply because there were a lot of studies that was conducted earlier around gender diversity at board level. So basically women, according to some of the literatures that I have read, and simply because I'm conducting my doctorate right now in ESG adoption and its impact on financial performance, taking into consideration the board diversity as a moderating factor. So basically, that's why I collected a lot of literatures around this topic in particular. So one of the researchers said, for instance, women on board increased perceptions of the board's lawfulness and reliability, those promoting stockholder confidence in the company. So here we're talking about the corporate governance, the transparency, the accountability, all of these things are being increased when women are on board, according to the researcher. And I'll speak about the research just in a while. Yes, if we can show the next one, please, Zoe. We can show them all and we can speak about them later. Yes. Another researcher is saying corporations with female executives make better decisions for shareholders. Okay, another researcher said gender diversity in the boardroom can enhance the power of boards to perform their control and strategic roles. Another researcher said the presence of females on boards could enhance corporate governance mechanisms such as transparency and accountability because of their contribution to mitigating fraud. And there are a lot of research, by the way, around fraud here. They said that the percentage of men committing fraud are more than women committing fraud. But if a woman is corrupted, if a woman is willing to commit fraud, then she will be more harmful than a man. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. We think of things differently. I told you before. Women could improve the decision-making process because of their different insights and innovative ideas that boost firm performance. So when it comes to innovation, for instance, they said that women, when they are there in the boardroom, they can innovate more. They can enhance the innovation process. Another researcher said increased gender diversity may lead to an activist board. And another dimension for this actually is that it might reduce the absenteeism rate at board level. If there is a woman in the boardroom, she can actually reduce the absenteeism rate, according to some studies. And she can make that board more decent when it comes to the conversations that they are speaking about, according to studies. But those are according to specific studies that were made on some sample organizations. So the researcher probably would like to prove some hypotheses and so to prove some assumptions that he made already upfront. So he's studying basically the organizations that could prove his assumption right? So it's a research at the end of the day. There is an article that I've read a long time back, and it says it depends on the context. We can't really say that because of a woman, the board is, the organization is profitable, or because of a woman, the corporate governance is more enhanced or improved. We can't say that simply because there is one whole context that we can look at, or we have to look at. Actually, there is the CEO, there is the executive management, there is the board, there is a lot of dimensions to it. So we can't really rely on a woman existing in the boardroom to enhance all of these things. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I hope that was a fair idea or a fair point to make here, just to make sure that I'm not biased to women.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we've proved we can make better baddies than the men. Excellent. Okay.
To drive this to a conclusion, we will take some recommendations from different spectrums. So when it comes to individuals, for instance, there are a couple of messages that we would like to share with men and women. With men, for instance, we need their support. We need their mentorship. We need their hand to lift us up, because simply they have made it to the boardroom and they have established networks. They have established lobbies and majalis. While we women, we don't have a women club, for instance, for board for directors at board level. So we need their help big time. We need their mentorship and we need their support. When it comes to women, the message that I would like to share, that she needs to work on her knowledge, on her skills, on her capabilities, on her network, on her visibility, on her personal brand. She needs to work on all of these aspects in order for her to reach to a board career. She needs to work on her knowledge when it comes to, for instance, knowledge at the big topics that are really booming in the boardroom, like, for instance, digital transformation, cybersecurity, ESG, sustainability. All these topics are very essential and very sensitive, and it comes in the boardroom all the time. So she needs to educate herself on those topics, for instance. She needs to build the skills. She needs to be part of a network, of a lobby, of, a specific club or something. She needs to build her skills, the financial literacy. All these are essential skills to be at board level. When it comes to the organization, they need to enable some mentorship programs, some development programs, some support activities for women. We need to reduce the theories of the glass cliff, the glass ceiling, the broken rank, the leaky pipeline. All these theories or all these terminologies are existing in reality. So we need to limit them as much as possible. When it comes to the glass ceiling, for instance, we observe it when a woman reaches a specific level, she can't move up. She can't really pump up that glass ceiling. So we need to break that glass ceiling. When it comes to the leaky pipeline, the representation of women reduced when she reaches to the upper levels. So we need to reduce that as well. We need to make sure that there are development programs in order for the women to reach to the top level. When it comes to the glass cliff indicates that they are assigning women for the risky positions in order for them to prove that she can't deliver, she will fail. So we need to reduce as well that aspect. When it comes to the country level or the country spectrum, we need to enable more training programs. At country level, we need to maybe enhance the corporate governance code in order for us to reduce the overboarding, probably to make sure that we are giving chances to different people, to different bloods to invade the boardrooms. When it comes to the terms of each board member, we need to reduce probably the term of each board member in order for us also to ensure that new blood is being injected in the boardrooms. Yes, and at world level, we need to fight some perceptions, some existing perceptions or some existing assumptions. Why it's chairman? Why it's not chairperson, for instance? So this is one of the things that is really there as a discussion in several studies. Yes. And there is a nice quote at the end. We would like to end that session with a nice quote from the CCTV News host, Tian Nui. She said, any society that fails to harness the energy and creativity of its women is at a huge disadvantage in the modern world. So we don't want to be in disadvantage. Yes, thank you so much. That will reach us to the end of the session. And I'm ready now to receive any questions or discussions.
Wonderful. Well, Eman, thank you so much for such an interesting presentation. And I think what was incredibly impressive about it was the data that you had personally accumulated by researching different companies. This is not information that's come from a big management consulting company that you put into the presentation, though of course that's always useful, but you had actually done a lot of that research yourself and really thought about it, and that really shows and gives us something quite unique here. And thank you for your parallels between Bahrain and the rest of the GCC and the rest of the world. That was really excellent. So congratulations, thanks. And we look forward in a year and a half to hearing your PhD findings, which are going to be fascinating. But I know you've still got a way to go. You've got a lot of work to do before that point. So let's now open up the floor, because I know a lot of people are very keen to ask questions, and we really did want to make sure we could get to those. There's a Mr Al-Jimi here, who is I believe a professor currently in London. I can't see you at the moment, Mr Al-Jimi.
Okay.
Do you want to put your camera on? Oh, there you are.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I have a problem in my cam.
No problem. No problem.
Well, thank you, Ms Eman, for the informative presentation. Just a question before the comment. Do you think there is a positive relationship between the number of female directors and firms' performance?
So a correlation between, could you repeat the question?
Female directors, the number of female directors means board members and performance?
And performance.
Yeah.
And are you talking about a specific industry or just generally?
I mean, from her findings. I'm just actually referring to her findings, because she repeated that in her presentation before going to my comments.
Yes, let me answer that from different perspective, not because I've studied studies before or literatures that say that there is a positive relationship between the number of females and the performance of the firm. No, because I believe that it depends big time on the quality of the females that you are bringing on board. You can't really say that, okay, because I have 5 females in comparison to 10, let's say, in my boardroom, I can produce better. Maybe those females are passive. You never know, right? So it depends on the quality of the females that you are bringing in the boardroom. It's not really dependent on the number of them, but the quality of them. It's not quantity, but quality, I believe. This is my own personal belief, but there are a lot of studies that shows there is a positive relationship between the number and the performance, the number and the attendance, the number and the innovation, the number and the corporate governance, etc. A lot of studies, honestly speaking.
Then basically, Ms Eman, you are saying your answer to Ms Kareem's question when he said, is there a business case for more women to be on board? The answer to his question, no, there is no business case. Basically, you are saying merits matters more than gender. And therefore, whether you bring a female director or a male director, if they have the same merits and the same quality and the same expertise boards need, they will end up with the same results. And therefore, gender has no impact. Now, before also going to my comments, are we talking about Bahrain or we are talking about research in general?
Research in general.
Oh, not Bahrain. I mean, just because unfortunately I came late, because my comments will be more relevant to Bahrain than research done in different countries that they differ in terms of social, political, economic, and therefore Bahrain is a bit different. Even it's quite difficult to compare Bahrain even with other GCC countries.
Is Ms Deabil making a you were making a point perhaps generally about the fact that females, provided they have had the training to be in an appropriate board position, would then have the add on top of that, be able to layer on top of that diversity of thought, which is not the case if you just have men in those positions. I guess that's the thing. Nobody's saying that you would just put women in without making sure that they're ready for those positions.
Yeah, I don't challenge that, and I'm with actually board more diversity on our boards. I am with that. My comments, my short comments, would be based on. I'm doing a paper in this. I mean, probably in a couple of months, I'll have a paper on women in boards in Bahrain. Now, the results, I've met around, 23 male, female board members, executives, CEOs, and even finance directors. Generally speaking, even women do not feel that having more women on board will improve corporate governance practices. That's the general conclusion from those whom I met, and I'm talking about especially female directors, are saying and claiming that actually the role of women, whether effective or not, depends on merits. And it's quite difficult. We have to make a distinction when we are comparing women versus men in terms of, features and characteristics and traits. When we are talking about comparing non-board with male and females, that differ from when we are comparing those who reach top positions. When a female reaches a position to be on the board, she is not like an ordinary woman. And the same applies to those who reach, I'm talking about those who actually got to the boards from men as well. Meaning for example, we claim that women generally are less risk averse. But generally, those who are on board, they are, many studies found them to be, in fact, less risk averse versus general opinion about women. Now, my question and the last comment is, I am with more women and better diversified board. But what we are lacking in Bahrain, and we have support from certainly the Supreme Council of Women and also government. What we see generally, leave those, companies that are fully owned by government. Now, if you look to the 42 companies, the number of women on boards really very low. And even the recent decision by the CBB is not talking about having women on. CBB basically saying disclose whether you have women on boards or not. Basically state a sentence says, well, we have 2 out of 11, for example, for BBK, or 1 out of 10 in case of NBB, and NAS 0. That's what CBB is talking about. But when you look, one of the challenges, not only training could be done. BBK's recent initiative, this is certainly should be applauded. But if you look to executives, women, hardly you see women occupying executive positions, C-suite positions that may take them to the board. Mostly you see HR, some of them compliance. And probably Dr. Karim more in business, more than me, and he may probably in a position to comment since I see him now opening his camera. Okay, and sorry I took long time from you. Sorry for the comment, the time.
Thank you, Professor. So, Eman, what are your thoughts on the professor's argument there? There were several points that you were making there, really. So it wasn't, to me, it wasn't that clear whether you were saying that you thought it was a problem, or you said that you thought that women were not typical if they end up at board level, and I didn't quite understand whether that was a point of education, or you felt of character. Of character. Right.
Yeah, character as well as education. They are dedicated. They are more, you see those when you look to the 42% in Norway found it difficult actually to tell the needed female directors in their boards. And in Spain, for example, there is a quota, and companies prefer to pay fines rather than appointing women as directors in order to meet the regulatory requirements. What I am saying, those who reach the board, and I'm not really saying this is not negative opinion. They are different women. They are. Women. They built they built experience, and of course they have the needed knowledge and are capable of serving on board. But we have,
I think just speaking from experience here, having worked in professional education, there's a huge amount of transformation that happens to people when they have the opportunity to be educated, nurtured and mentored and made to feel as if that's their birthright. And sometimes for women that comes a little too late in their professional career for them to feel ready for board level positions. That's just my my observation and experience. But it would be nice to hear from some of our other.
Zoe, can I say anything? This is Talal Al-Zain again.
Yes.
I mean,
hello.
of course, with all due respect to Professor Jassim, I mean, I think first of all, it's a matter of training and matter of developing a person, and it doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man, right? It's a matter of developing people. Even if I take his argument, Professor Jassim, about women are more risk averse, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's the board memberships. It's great to have diversity in both talent and capabilities. So if I have an aggressive board member and I have another board member that is risk averse, it balances. So I actually don't see the point.
I agree, and I think also the other thing. Mr. Saleh, yes.
Yes. Good evening. Good evening. I just wanted to make a very light comment on this. I just don't see the reason why we discourage women to be in the board because they contribute. Now, if we look forward, we have just had something called COVID-19, and it taught us all a lot of things. The nature of governance need to be done in such, we even call it agile corporate governance. Something need to done with agility, and there will be a lot of changes, and they're taking place, and regulation to say. You have to be responsible, as a board, look for your sustainability, for the the social responsibility and other things. And if you look at these issues, especially these two, there will be no better than women to understand and take it seriously than men, because it's social responsibility and sustainability for the future. So having them, they are everywhere. Why not in the boards? No. So I think this is the other side of it, which is very important. The CBB, for good reasons, ask each and every institution to have a training of at least 15 hours every year. And, the beneficiary of those training could be also some women. So if we don't do these things, then of course, we just say we have not done enough to the women to be in the boards. But if we believe in these and actually provide a training, provide, knowing that there are specific areas that maybe we did not pay attention in the past for, which is the social responsibility and the sustainability and other things, then I think the ladies or the women will be better placed to take good roles in these areas, which adds value to the any board. These are my views.
Thank you, Mr. Hussain. And it's going back to the whole point about diversity, helping the world go round. Ms. Hanifa Yemea from Sohar International in Oman, you've had your hand raised for ages. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Hang on, let me just put my, first of all, thank you, Eman, for a really wonderful presentation on a really, a topic that I'm quite passionate about, and hello to all of you. A couple of thoughts. I think I'll start with a comment about the pool of resources of women to put on boards. There's lots of challenging discussions about there isn't a pipeline of women. And what I think we need to see, which is happening in some other countries, and I'm originally from Australia, so I've started to see that this happened there, where there has been some challenges around having a steady pipeline of women to go onto boards, is rethinking the way that boards operate to make them more modernized for today's environment, market environment, corporate environment. So making them much more agile, thinking about, we now see chair roles that are co-shared between multiple, like 1 or 2 people. We see secretary role, almost job shared. So your secretary role on the board is job shared.
Oh dear, we just lost you there, Hanifa.
Sometimes women who have to balance, not just, yep. Oh, sorry, am I back?
Yeah.
I might just turn the video off. So I think basically what I'm saying is just refocusing and relooking at the way boards function, the way they're structured. Are they fit for purpose, not just to allow gender diversity, but all sorts of diversity? And also, are they fit for purpose for the needs of society, a business and market that is evolving, transformational, and dynamic that we go into going forward? So that's one thing. So I don't think it's enough to say we can't find women. You need to actually work, work to change the system, or work on flexibilities and innovation to try and drive not just women on boards, but other sort of levels of diversity on your board, which I hear a common theme by a couple of the members on the call about. It's not just about gender diversity, it's diversity in all shapes and forms, cultural, age diversity. There is no reason why we can't have young, energetic, vibrant people with good ideas on boards as well, which I think is really important. There are lots of studies that show that when you do have diversity, not just gender diversity, but lots of diversity, cultural, age diversity on your boards, they tend to be more profitable. So there is a Fortune 500 study by KPMG, another consulting firm, where those boards that have had, not just boards, but executive management showing gender diversity, they have been viewed or analysed to have 35% greater return on profit or equity, sorry. So there are lots of studies to show this. And I also think the other point I just wanted to make, it's not just about skills, academic skills, it's also about diversity in thought and behaviours. Okay, so you could be the best in understanding financial analysis, but it's also about bringing different, I mean, you could have 2 people on your boards who have the skill sets around financial analysis and understanding financials, but we want diversity in the way that those financials are viewed. And sometimes that doesn't come through academic, it comes through your cultural changes, your differences, your gender differences. So I think it's important to mention that it's diversity in skill sets, but it's diversity in behaviours and thoughts as well. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much. Those were great points and brilliantly made. And I remember once having a talk with somebody who was very senior in a financial institution in London, whose degree and training had been in geography. And he said, you can see everything about the markets and understand everything about the markets from a geographical perspective. And that's still, you know, he was still a man, but it was very interesting to hear how different his perspective was, but how it contributed to his understanding and sense of the way that the economy would move. So if you extrapolate from there and see that different points of view make a difference to the way people, the diversity around the table, then, you know, a female perspective is another angle on that, isn't it? Now, who have we not had? Who else would like to ask a question?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things as well. If
yes,
that's okay.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Let me see if this camera works.
Would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Hello, everyone. Eman, thank you so much. I will say Dr. Eman, because I believe we'll be celebrating you in a year's time. So congratulations in advance. Now, I'm just, thanks everyone for sharing your points. The first thing I want to say that it's time for everyone to realize the generation has changed. So I'm a 31-year-old and I could be sitting in a board in a year's time. The whole thought process of the young generation has changed. And the whole idea of diversity now is huge globally. So for example, I'm Australian as well, but I'm originally Iraqi and I live in Oman. That's a definition of diversity. And I work in commercial real estate, which is very rare for women to get into because, everybody's used to women selling houses. But I lead a commercial team for a global company based in Oman. So it has changed. And I think saying that, women need education to get to that, that's not the case. What they need is skills, and the younger generation has that skills. So in the next 10 years, we will see a huge shift, especially people like me, my age, where we traveled the globe from a very young age. We work in multiple countries. I got my MBA at the age of 26. So it has shifted. It's a huge shift now. And, as the study shows that women create productivity, performance, and so on. But like Hanifa mentioned, it's the thought process. And the new generation of female have a different innovative thought process. They feisty, they know what they want. They will fight all the way. And diversity is not just gender, it's skill sets, backgrounds, languages spoken, etc. So opportunities we get here because I'm multilingual are huge compared to a man who only speaks one language. So I have an advantage above that as well. So we will see a huge shift in the next few years. I mean, where we are now in the next 5 years, there is a guarantee that you see younger females sitting on big boards, Fortune 500, 42 listed companies, whichever it is, we'll definitely go into see more because it's the characteristics, the personalities this women bring, and just that motivation to do well.
Thank you so much. Those are brilliant points, well made. Can I ask Andrew Elia to speak? Can you ask your question, please?
Yes, hello everyone. First of all, thank you, Ms Eman, for a wonderful presentation. You raised some interesting points there, particularly with the statistics that you brought up across the GCC. So I have the dubious honour of being able to talk both about the UK and also my observations in some GCC countries that we've come across. One of the statistics which I found was particularly interesting was from our friends at the SBJBC, the Saudi-British Joint Business Council. And they said that as part of the evolution that's going on in the country, there's a lot more investment in the women of families, and as is evidenced by the LEAP conference, which is actually going on in Riyadh at the moment, there is a huge surge in startup companies being run by women. So that actually is separating out this conversation that people are having about women on boards, whereas we're getting female founders of companies. So they're already earning their spurs and proving that they can do this sort of thing. And as everyone else has been talking about that, in a few years' time, people who are sort of battle-hardened business women are going to be incredibly desirable on that side of things. So I think it's fascinating to see how these numbers will shift over a period of time. Now, one of the things that has been touched on lightly, and our colleague here did mention about this rule in Spain that if you don't have a woman on your board, you get fined. This comes up with a topic which comes up quite often in the UK of positive discrimination, and I've never been in favour of something like that because it's such an arbitrary rule and it doesn't really take into consideration the skills. And generally speaking, if you try and force people to do something, it will often have the opposite effect in that people will become more resistant to it. And I think one of the factors, and I guess you could say some of the ignorance about getting people on board, is that I think people probably have difficulty understanding the distinction between getting a woman on a board for her merits or the sort of difference of viewpoint and instincts that it will bring, as opposed to it being considered a sort of token making up the numbers point of view. And I guess the question, Ms Eman, if I may, is how do you educate people so that they're not thinking getting a woman on a board is just about meeting a quota and actually showing that there is value to be brought? Because you know, some audiences I think would struggle to understand. Well, and not me, by the way, not me, but I'm just saying that some people may not necessarily understand it, and how do you educate people to meet that challenge?
So I think it all starts with awareness, establishing the proper awareness around this topic in particular. We have to be very fair and transparent when it comes to the appointment of board members and when it comes to the selection of board members or nominating board members. Sitting, as he said, sitting in a board or sitting in a committee or sitting in a panel or sitting in any place should be based on merits, should be based on qualities. It should not be based on gender or color or ethnicity group or social status or family name or whatever of those different particulars. It should be based on merits and qualities and skills and the value that she's adding, she's bringing to the table of the boardroom. So I think it all starts with awareness, establishing the proper awareness, having a fair, transparent process for hiring and appointing board members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eman. That makes a very good, you've made a very good point there. And do we have anyone else who would like to ask a question? No?
I think Mr. Abdulkarim Bucheery, everybody, he asked a simple question, but everybody is attacking him. So let's give him a chance to defend himself.
Good idea. Would you like to respond?
Yes, you need to unmute, Butariq. You are on mute. We cannot hear you. Mr. Abdulkarim, you are on mute.
Sorry. I have muted now. I'm sorry, I didn't feel that I have been attacked. I think the explanation and the views given were very good given. I have always been believing very strongly in the diversity of board members based on merits, and I see that I can always see that there are reasons for the mixed gender to be in the board, and this tonight's presentation has cemented that thinking. So thank you very much, Eman, and thank you very much for all the people who have contributed into that. At the end of the presentation, you came up with certain recommendations, locally, internationally, and what have you. I think one of the most important recommendations should be to give the central bank advice to make it mandatory for listed companies or to the Bahrain Bourse to make it mandatory for them to increase the number of representation of the women in the boards. We take it gradually. We put a target for ourselves, say in the year 2030, to go in line with the Bahrain outlook for 2030. Say we want to reach minimum of 25%. But we take it gradually. Next year, maybe we reach from 5.9 to 6 to 7.5 and so on and so forth. It should be mandatory, because when it's mandatory, all listed companies, I think, will take it very serious and will comply as much as they can. No penalties, but we make it mandatory so that people are encouraged to take it seriously. That's the comment that I wanted to make, but I wanted to ask Eman a couple of questions, if you don't mind. And the table that you have shown us, where Norway came at the top at 43%, I think, where is the USA in this? Because it's important to know how does the American institution and how does the United States think about women empowerment, and especially becoming on the board. I didn't see USA, I didn't see the Asian countries like Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, which are supposed to be leading in certain industries. And the second question that I always ask myself, do we have enough pool of women who are capable and I would say equipped to become board members in Bahrain? Do we have the pool that you can choose from? Is there a consolidated sort of list being shared with banks, with companies, listed companies? These are the pool of women we have, pick and choose. Because sometimes I chair certain boards. Sometimes we think we want to empower women, we want to have women in our board. But the difficulty of finding information about who's available in the market becomes sort of deterrent for us. So these are my two questions, if you don't mind. And thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, Abu Tariq. Thank you. So basically, when it comes to the first question, USA and Hong Kong, they are all there in the Deloitte report. But I did not include them simply because I've collected only the top 10 according to the women representation. But they are there anyways, but they are not part of the top 10.
Okay.
So I can share with you the report from Deloitte, and you can see all the countries that you're interested in, the Asian countries, the European countries, all the regions, all the different countries. This is when it comes to the first question. The second question regarding a pool of women who are capable to handle board positions, I don't think there is a pool, to be very frank with you. I would assume that there is an implicit pool, but not an explicit pool. Those pool are the existing women at board level, probably. Those are the women who are known that they are capable of handling board positions. But as a reference for a pool, I don't think there is, to be very frank with you.
Don't you think it's a good idea to start working on a list for the pool?
Why not? It's a good idea. It's indeed a good idea, probably.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Eman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
I think we have Hanifa also.
Hanifa.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a question, just something to think about. So in Oman, I'm mentoring a couple of Omani ladies. So I actually sit on an executive committee in Oman for the Australian business group, but I also have just recently been appointed to a private sector board in the UAE, where they're driving a 50% gender diversity ratio on that particular board. But one thing I've found in mentoring a couple of the Omani women who are seeking to go on board, and I'm sort of mentoring and coaching them through that, is finding where the board opportunities exist and how do you tap into that board network, be it private sector or not-for-profit sector. So something maybe it's worth considering in Bahrain is almost finding a way to promote some of those board opportunities as well. And I know, again, in Australia, they created some really nice portals where women could go on or through memberships like the Institute of Company Directors, where women became members and you can get access to a list of board opportunities. So that's just something to be mindful of, because there may be a lot of women who are interested, but they just don't know where to turn to or to look for them. So that's something I'm trying to explore a bit within Oman. So this is something I thought I'd note to the group as well.
That's a very good point, Hanifa. And transparency, it gives transparency. And we have similar boards in the UK, but I have to say that not the best roles are not always advertised. So quite often it's the ones which are for not-for-profits. Not to say that those aren't good in themselves, but the more senior roles are not always advertised, and the paid roles are not always advertised. So that's a helpful point to make. Perhaps Australia's ahead in that regard. I just wanted to ask.
Can I add one more thing, please?
Yes, Mr.
I think now we do not have enough pool of the ladies, simply because we do have, especially in Bahrain, big problems. Give me one university in Bahrain that teaches something called corporate governance. While everywhere else they have it as a major kind of subject in the universities. And some of them talk about it, they do some sessions, but it's not a subject that is part of the program that the ladies go through, because simply it's not there. And with that, I'm sure if we really get serious about it and make it a must, certainly all these young, beautiful ladies will have to know about the boards, memberships, committees, and so on, so they actually get prepared for it. They unfortunately do not have that, so they only go out, finish school or college and so on to understand or to hear about this. So I think that's one of the subjects need to be looked at seriously by Bahrain for the good of the ladies. And by the way, talking about my friend Abu Tariq, I know he talked, I sit with him in one or two boards, and he knows these two boards are blessed with good number of ladies. So he's a fan of that, and thanks, Abu Tara. But anyway, coming to the point that really it has to start from education, from school, from universities. So make sure, like any other thing, any other line of business in life, they should be aware of too. Thank you.
Shukran, Abu Yad. Shukran, Abu Yad.
Excellent. And Eman, I would just like to ask you, you talked about the attributes of successful women on boards. Obviously, we've talked about education and professional education around corporate governance. Without getting into kind of cliches of everyone having to be totally assertive, what other kind of attributes do you think are useful to women on boards?
The current attributes or the future attributes, what we are looking for or the existing one, because there is a difference. There is a variance between the current and the future.
Yes.
Let me clarify both. Okay. So the current as is attributes for the woman to be in the boardroom. She's Bahraini. Okay. She has more, let's say, more appetite to become a board member if she's a Bahraini. If she's holding a higher degree, academic degree, if she's a doctor, for instance, that will increase her chances to become a board member. That is not applicable on men, by the way. When she is, for instance, when she studied abroad, that will increase her chances as well. If she's single, that will increase her chances to advance in her career and to advance at to a board level. So this type of attributes, the current one, when we studied the profiles of the existing board members at board level. When it comes to future attributes, I believe qualities, skills, as stated by Hanifa and by Dalia, actually those attributes are very essential. They are very key. Thought processing, the qualities, the studies, not the academic ones, but the more practical ones, the financial literacy, corporate governance, ESG, sustainability, digital transformation, cybersecurity, all these are essential skills at board level because those discussions are hot topics at board level. So those attributes, those type of skills she required, those type of qualities. And plus, of course, the character, the attitude, how she deals with other board members, the political awareness, for instance, how she manages the dynamics between the board members, how can she establish her own networks or her own allies, this type of qualities, I believe. Political awareness, political intelligence.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's very helpful to know. So I believe we've probably exhausted our topic and hopefully not exhausted your attention because we've had some absolutely fantastic contributions from everybody. So we are just in the process of wrapping up. We have one last person, Johanna. Johanna, would you like to just ask your question or make your point? And that will be the last of our talk.
Good evening. This is Johanna Tublani. I just thank you, Eman, for highlighting the attributes that are considered while selecting a woman for a board seat. But you've mentioned 2 points that I quite did not get that much. You said if she's single and if she studied abroad, that's an added point on her end. Why is so? I just wanted to understand the thought process behind that.
Well, actually, those are the current for the existing board members. So because we've studied the profiles of the 86 board members, the ladies who made it to the boardroom. So one of the attributes that I've noticed when she's holding, for instance, a doctorate degree, she's having more chances to become a board member. If she's single, she's having more chances to become a leader or having a leadership position, an executive leadership position or a board member position. If she is, for instance,
but that's the preference. This is where I'm heading. So
sorry.
It's being, so if I'm understanding you correctly, is being married is a drawback, and if she's completed her studies in Bahrain, that's a drawback at her end.
I'm not saying it's a drawback. I'm saying it's the current as is attributes for the woman who made it to the boardroom. So there is a correlation between that aspect and make it to the boardroom. I'm not saying it's an attribute, it's an advantage. No, I'm not saying that, Johanna. So it's the current as is attributes for the existing board members. When we studied their profiles, for instance, we realized that if she studied abroad, if she is single, she can make it better. She can make it easier. Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe sometimes
That's not an advantage.
maybe sometimes we need to conceal information of this nature, because I agree with Johanna. This is very demoralizing to say that single women or women who studied abroad, maybe these information should not be made public.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. Yes. Well, as long as we make it equitable on both sides. But of course, that
I
will
wrote
never
it already
happen,
in the
so,
article.
yeah.
Sorry, I wrote it already in the article. When I studied their profiles, I wrote it in the article. So you can see
Yes.
it there in the article, the third one.
I don't know. I mean, just a note. I don't think this applies to the listed companies, does it?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No.
And I mean, isn't it all better to make a distinction between listed companies and non-listed companies? Because basically the non-listed companies, the decision is based on a single owner, isn't it? The owner of the non-listed company, or some owners, few owners. But when it comes to the listed companies, I think the attributes, all of them, no, most of them are simply independent. And if I go over those who are on those boards, how many PhD? I mean, I guess all of them are qualified. They have university degrees and experience, but I think only one has a PhD.
True. For the listed companies, yes, true.
Yeah, just one has a PhD. Yeah, this is basically, I mean, we need to make that distinction between the non-listed and listed, because I think most of the studies, published studies, using different countries, concentrate on listed companies, not privately owned. If you talk about family businesses, that's different from listed firms.
That's a good distinction to make. Thank you for making that. But I think they're interesting points, but I guess looking forward, it's more about what we believe genuinely board members of any gender would be good to have in their armory. So these sorts of skills that you've mentioned, sort of diversity of thought, understanding of ESG, digital transformation, as on top of obviously governance and financial acumen, those are all good skills, aren't they, for men and for women? So thank you all so much. This has been a fascinating discussion, and actually it will be interesting to release the notes on this to the wider business community and to LinkedIn, because we've actually been talking about, Mr. Bucheery mentioned the importance of quotas really as a way of moving this forward, and making it something that will grow over the next few years, starting perhaps with a smaller quota, growing to something bigger, creating organizations that women can join, which make them feel as if they've got a network of fellow female board members, increasing financial literacy, looking at co-sharing of board roles, a fascinating topic, which I certainly hadn't thought of, and looking at the sort of the refocusing and restructuring of board responsibilities, and so many other useful things, points made, like, for example, just being aware of the differences between listed and non-listed companies, and the fact that obviously listed companies are going to have more governance around them. It's going to be easier to bring forward those organizations in terms of diversity. So thank you to everybody who joined this evening. It's been absolutely fascinating, and we will be sharing our thoughts on this topic and also exploring it on other occasions. So I do wish you all a really lovely end to the day, and I hope to see you all in the near future. Thank you. This has been Eman Deabil and me, Zoë Buckingham, and until the next time, thank you.